the scene, broom, it disappeared, and there I was 30 years ago, going, oh man, romancing the stone. We're gonna go home.
By the way, I watched that 2 days ago. It was on TV. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is great. It was it was so cool.
No,
so
I'm going-
great to see that again.
I mean, I'm thinking I'm all for a prequel myself.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Michael might have actually inquired about purchasing the company that did that technology too.
And Michael, did you want to don the suit? Is that
Well,
something?
I mean, it would be great to wear that suit. Probably not after Paul, not right after Paul, but like. Yeah.
That makes sense.
We would have it cleaned for you, Michael.
Oh, okay, thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. Swapping suits.
There's a gentleman in the 5th row, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much for bringing Ant-Man to the screen. Love the film. Over here.
Oh,
okay,
okay,
yeah,
sorry,
I
man.
It's a twofold question for Mr. Reed. I was wondering, does your heist movie signal will this be a trend in the Marvel universe going forward, sort of a much more subgenre style of film? And secondly, you mentioned your love of comics and reading them when younger. Can you tell me some of your favorite stories, not just character-based, but actual stories?
Yeah, well, with the first question, I don't know if this signals a trend in Marvel. I think they've always done these sort of subgenres, and I think that's one of the things that keeps the Marvel movies so interesting. I mean, when you look at last year, Captain America Winter Soldier owes to sort of a 70s political thriller, like a paranoia thriller. And Guardians of the Galaxy, which came out the same year, is this crazy gonzo space opera. And our movie happens to have the structure and feel of a heist movie. And I think that's one of the things Marvel's really done is, you know, sometimes you'll talk to Kevin Feige. It's like, well, we don't make superhero movies. We make genre movies. And I think it's been a very smart thing. In terms of the second thing, I was always, in terms of the comics, I always loved the original Hank Pym, you know, right around, you know, 62 on up, the original Avengers comics. I love the relationship between Hank and Janet, the fact that they were an amazing superhero duo, but also the romance between those two characters was always fascinating. And then also the fact that Hank Pym, there's a little bit of schizophrenia and maybe a little bit of, he had inferiority complex, because in the Avengers, he was fighting alongside Thor and Hulk, and he always felt inadequate. And as we know in the comics, he changed his identity a lot, and I always found that fascinating. So those early years to me were great.
There's 2 questions here from the 2nd row.
Hello. The Marvel movies always have quite a light touch to them. There's always a lot of comedy, but this in particular is extremely funny. Is this something you guys are going to continue with? Is Ant-Man going to stay lighter? And I mean, there were kids behind me that were cackling like witches in a great way. Or are you going to go a little darker maybe? Or, I mean, yeah, the tone really. What's your plan?
Is that for Peyton? Or anyone? Okay.
Where's Kevin Feige?
Okay, yeah, right.
Well, listen, I'm hoping that audiences will respond to this movie, and if we're fortunate enough to be able to make another Ant-Man movie, I think there's a lot of story left to tell with these characters. And I think there's also a freedom at Marvel to kind of tonally do whatever we think is best, what serves the story best. So this one happens to be a highly comedic heist movie in terms of its structure and tone. I think there's a portion of Ant-Man that will always have a comedic component to it, but I like the idea that we could, you know, invent an entirely different feel for a sequel if we're fortunate enough to be able to do one.
Ant-Man 2 will be like a Bergman film.
Right.
Yeah.
Very quiet.
We're going to do
Very
it black
serious.
and white. We're going to shoot in Sweden, and it's going to be all about God's silence.
In an acknowledgement of Evangeline Lilly, who's not with us today, who's 8 months preggers.
Prager's.
Is traveling and doing very well. But for those of you who stayed till the very end credits, I thought there was also a little taste of what might be coming.
Absolutely. And there's another question in the 2nd row, please.
And this question is actually extraordinarily similar to the previous question, but I would like to know what themes you'd like to explore in Ant-Man 2, because obviously the comics are very rich. What kind of themes and